Now it's time for our big story tonight. Home Secretary James Cleverly has warned the Church not to allow asylum seekers to cheat the system by converting to Christianity. This after Abdul Azadi, a convicted sex offender who was one of those so-called converteds, went on to rampage with a chemical attack on the streets of London before being found dead days later. He then received a Muslim funeral after his body was pulled from the River Thames. Plus, as churches close, wardens disappear and calls are made for slave trade reparations, has Britain lost faith in the Church? Joining me to discuss this is Reverend Keith Waters, who joins us. So why are things not looking good, would be the first question I'd like to ask you.
Why not things not looking good with the Church?
Yeah, our fondness to, I suppose, after that list of things that are happening, it's not looking like you're having a PR success.
Well, you know, I think the Church has probably rarely had a PR success. But I think there's also a question is, what is the Church? When the Church is Christian people, it's not buildings, it's not organizations. And so I think in this country particularly, we've had a kind of lead as far as the media are concerned. In any question you ask about faith, it's usually let's grab, if it's Christian faith, let's grab the Church of England. And I think the Church of England, you know, I speak as somebody who was once an Anglican member. I actually came to faith in an Anglican church. But there has been a real shift from faith to politics, it seems, across a lot of, sadly, a lot of denominations, not just the Anglican Church. I don't want to rubbish any denomination as such, but certainly organised faith, Christian faith in this country, it's not had a good press, and sometimes it's given itself quite a bad press. So I think that's part of the issue we have.
You make an interesting point there about when we speak of religion, we think of the Church, almost the organisation of, and I suppose that's where the split is that's causing some of these problems, isn't it? The actual worshippers aren't necessarily on the same page, let's do the cliche, singing from the same hymn sheet as the people doing the organisation, making some statements that, as you say, might be seen as too political.
Yeah, well, what you find is an interesting thing when you look at the statistics of, you see droves of people leaving the church, and these statistics, actually, there are churches that are growing in number. The churches that are growing in number are those that are preaching the truth of the gospel. On a day like today, we had a good full church. It's not very different on any other week. We have people coming in who want to know about the truth of Jesus Christ. And so, the Church is a family of believers. It is sadly these days seen in the media as something of a parody, really, of true faith.
And what do you think of one of the stories we were talking about there, the Home Secretary warning about what he's being perceived as a system of cheating the official asylum system by turning up to the UK, saying you've converted, and then getting the backing of the Church to make the error that you accused me of earlier?
Well, I'd say he's absolutely right. As a Christian minister, I'm really perplexed and confused as to how somebody could come in as clearly somebody, a follower of the Islamic faith, and suddenly convert to Christianity. Now, that can happen, of course, but as I mentioned, a church is a family of believers, and so somebody, if they were to turn up, and we have people from all sorts of places will be part of our church family, but we get to know them. We don't just kind of get to know them as they are. If somebody who converts to Christianity, which does sound kind of like weird, old-fashioned jargon, but becomes a Christian, well, the truth is there will be a change, a natural change in their behaviour and attitudes. I mean, you might not think it, but I'm actually the improved version of me. That's the way it works. It comes around naturally, and so if you don't see that, if there is no change, then why would you go through the process of enabling somebody to make a public confession of faith, which they clearly don't have? And I can see that maybe there's maybe you think, well, it's a numbers game. We just want to get the tick in the box. That's a dreadful thing. That is nothing to do with the Christian faith. Christian faith is willingly accepting those who will accept Jesus. and giving them the opportunity to make that statement, say, Jesus has made such a difference in my life, I want to commit my life to him, and I want to live for him. And you'll see that actually there'll be people who will be not just turning up on a Sunday. You know, somebody could turn up on a Sunday, they do it to get into schools, don't they? So I understand if you want to get into an Anglican school, you know, to turn up on a Sunday or you know, a Methodist school or whatever, you know, you could do that. But actually, this is about life. So you're going to turn up at other things. You're going to be in getting to know people, and it's a big difference.
Isn't there an issue that regardless of how high you set the bar, if the prize at the end of it is having someone be in your corner when trying to go through the asylum system, you will simply find out what you need to do and do it. It draws that parallel to, as you say, the schools. People work out what is the bare minimum they need to do to get the benefit of having the church on their side.
Sadly, I think that's what seems to have happened. But I hope I've explained well enough that there wouldn't be that bare minimum. It is a case of there is a sure and certain hope that people will have, and that is reflected in their lives. You can't. It's not something that you can kind of hide. You could certainly tick the boxes. You know, I could have a great you know, business going of, you know, ticking boxes, you know, getting people coming through just to make numbers look what they were and get asylum claims going. That'd be a dreadful thing to do.
And we should say, I should just say the Archbishop of Canterbury has previously said there's no evidence to support claims of the Church of England subverting the asylum system by allowing spurious conversions to Christianity. Yeah. So I guess it's worth bringing that side of the argument in, but pointing out that it is a contentious issue.
Yeah, because it turns out that it's not just the Church of England. You know, whilst I've said they're not necessarily the best representative of Christianity in this country, and I would stand by that. There are some great Christians in the Anglican Church, but also the hierarchy give a very skewed view of what believers believe. It's not the same thing. But there are other people who are doing this, I'm sure. Yeah. It's not just that particular denomination.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. Reverend Keith Waters, thank you for joining us.